Tonight, a teen gang strikes too close to home for a high-profile victim of crime. The delicate mission to rescue a whale trapped in shark nets off our coast. The big-name star promoter backing a new stadium for Brisbane 2032. Two astronauts told to stay put, stuck on the International Space Station until next year. Your first look inside Brisbane's hottest new luxury hotel. Plus, a piece of Queensland history brought back to life in spectacular fashion.
This is 9 News Queensland with Mia Glover.
Good evening. A gang of young criminals has struck just metres from where North Lake's mother, Emma Lovell, was stabbed to death nearly 2 years ago. Emma's husband telling 9 News he's baffled criminals have hit so close to home yet again as police step up their hunt for those responsible.
It's the early hours of the morning. Teenagers in ski masks burst into a property at North Lakes. They're in and out within minutes, leaving empty-handed but terrifying those inside.
Yeah, very unnerving, very angry as well that they think they can just come around and do things like that.
The home they targeted is directly next door to Lee Lovell's. It was in this very front yard on Boxing Day 2022 where Lee's wife Emma was stabbed to death by a teenager.
Yeah, it sort of brings back a lot of fears of what happened that night as well. You know, I suppose you just think that, like, it's happened to us once, it just won't happen in this area again, but obviously people don't know what's happened here and don't care.
Lee's neighbours equally frightened.
And you don't know if they're armed or if they're going to hurt you or hurt your kids. So yeah, it's very unnerving.
Security cameras also capturing the group's repeated attempts to break into properties on nearby streets.
There's no consequence to the actions that they're doing, so they can just be locked up one day and be let out the next.
Police believe this group targeted several homes in North Lakes, including Lee's neighbours, before continuing their spree in nearby Mango Hill. And detectives are tonight investigating whether these break-ins from earlier this week are linked to the spree. Teenagers wielding a mallet and a butcher's knife at Brisbane Downs tried to force their way into a family home before stealing a Lexus. Speeding through Brisbane tunnels at close to 240 kilometres an hour, posting their getaway to social media. Two Gold Coast boys aged 13 and 14 have been hit with a string of charges. Several others tonight remain on the run. Bailey Kenzie, 9 News.
A massive rescue mission has unfolded off the coast to free a humpback from shark nets. Live now to Lily Greer. Lily, good evening to you. The whale was entangled for hours.
Yeah, that's right, Mia. The poor thing was trapped for around 4 hours and it was the team at Fisheries Queensland who were leading the charge to set it free. Now, this trapping was first reported around 7:30 this morning in waters off Coolangatta. They call this one a sub-adult, a humpback whale between 8 and 9 metres long, and it was trapped in shark control equipment. Now, as you can see, it was a very delicate operation to set it free, a small vessel against a big animal, but eventually that team did it. They set the whale free and it swam off into the distance with a big splash of its tail. Now, the team at Fisheries taking the opportunity today to remind boaties that if you see a trapped animal, a shark, a dolphin or a whale, do not approach it. Instead, call the professionals.
It's a good outcome. Lily, thank you. A young man has been killed and 4 others injured in a horror crash in the Gold Coast hinterland. Community members laying floral tributes at the scene today as police investigate what caused the car to roll.
A Mitsubishi Pajero on its roof, crushing trees on the side of a windy Binogan road. The aftermath of a midnight drive gone horribly wrong. Emergency services arrived within 4 minutes of the first 000 call at 12:45 this morning. They worked desperately to free the 21-year-old driver who was trapped in the wreckage.
Given that the vehicle had rolled, access to the vehicle was very difficult as well. It was off the roadway.
Despite their best efforts, the young man from Madraba died at the scene. 4 others in the car, all men in their early 20s, were also hurt.
2 of the males managed to get themselves out fairly quickly after the incident.
All were taken to the Gold Coast University Hospital in a stable condition, one suffering serious chest and back injuries.
Unfortunately, a deceased patient in that vehicle and 4 other males with, varying but serious injuries as well. I can imagine it would have been confronting.
A forensic crash unit investigation is now underway into why the vehicle span out of control. The car leaving Binogan Road, clipping this driveway slope, crashing right outside a family home. Floral tributes left at the scene today as a community mourns the loss of one of their own. Hataya Gribski, 9 News.
A house has gone up in flames at River Hills in Brisbane's west. Crews were called to the property just before 2 p.m. to find the home well involved. Firefighters working swiftly to contain the blaze.
Crews did an excellent job to confine the fire to the upper storey. Unfortunately, the occupants won't be able to occupy the house anymore. It's too dangerous.
Initial investigations are the home's solar panels may have caught alight. No one was injured in the blaze. A man has gone on a stabbing rampage in Sydney South after a crash on the Princes Highway. The 58-year-old allegedly slashing his partner and injuring 4 others, including a police officer. Bystanders stepping in to protect the woman, with the attack playing out right in front of families.
In the white T-shirt, a 58-year-old man on the Princes Highway in Gildea, ranting after stabbing his female passenger and himself. The woman is still inside the car.
Right into the camera! For all you bastards!
Standing at the front of the car, Cronulla Sharks chairman Steve Mace.
I heard the guy screaming in the driver's, but then I heard his wife or partner screaming even louder. So I ran round to the passenger, I tried to open the door and finally jibbed it open, and all of a sudden I see him just slashing it.
The man was armed with a box cutter, but Mace and another man, that's him in the brown shirt, still tried to pull the woman from the car.
I was then trying to drag her out of the car to stop the stabbing. He was sort of swiping at us. There was another gentleman that came to help. That poor gentleman tried to grab her legs and didn't realise he had the knife.
In a car directly behind, a family watch as Steve Mace and several others try to subdue the man before police arrive.
Don't be scared, sweetie, it's okay.
Dad, don't go out there.
A police officer arrives and chases the man. The officer caught him and fired his taser, but during the arrest, the officer was stabbed in the wrist. He was taken to St George Hospital.
He was just lying on the side of the road in the recovery position. Looks like his hand was quite badly cut.
Earlier, CCTV caught the man in the white T-shirt driving his car on the wrong side of Old Bush Road. Then, onto the Princes Highway, he crashes into this blue sedan. That's when Steve Mace and the other member of the public intervened. The man and woman were in a domestic relationship. Police believe she was stabbed in the lead up to the crash, which is why he was driving so erratically. In all, 6 people injured, 4 stabbed, multiple ambulances up and down the highway, a rampage that started when the man's partner reached for the dashboard.
It was all to do with, she changed his radio station on him. We're all dead anyway. It's a big conspiracy about the jab and we're all getting followed.
A morning that saw a moment of madness and selfless acts of bravery by bystanders.
Quite frightening, but very, very brave on those people's behalf.
Erin Ramsey, 9 News.
And if you or someone you know needs help, you can call 1800-RESPECT on 1800 737 732. A major concert promoter is the latest stakeholder to join a chorus of calls for a new Brisbane stadium. It comes as an increase to a cap on shows at Suncorp Stadium becomes permanent. The government dismissing fears Queensland could lose big acts.
Joining calls for a new Brisbane stadium, one of the country's biggest concert promoters. Dion Brand, the CEO of Frontier Touring, who's brought the likes of Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran, Paul McCartney and Elton John to Australia. Telling 9 News, we believe that the Olympics should provide a legacy that lives for decades beyond the Games themselves. A new inner-city stadium would provide that legacy. The Olympics is a very real opportunity for Brisbane to reshape itself as a city and major events destination. The government, though, standing firm on its current plan.
It's a $7.1 billion plan under the new norm, and we're looking forward to delivering it for a great 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games.
Increasingly,
Usually when I speak to people, they use the word embarrassed. I just don't want to feel embarrassed.
Brandt says while Suncorp Stadium does meet most of the city's needs, alternative venue options are always good. Something larger could add value. And after Queensland missed out on Taylor Swift's Eras Tour and a visit from singer The Weeknd, asked whether a new stadium could help pull big-name acts, Brandt says it certainly can't hurt.
I think the reasons around Taylor not coming to Queensland were not associated with the venue per se.
The government insists Suncorp Stadium still has the appeal to draw in star performers. A temporarily increased cap on concerts of 12 per year, up from 6, here to stay from 2025.
This, of course, will bring more events, more jobs. We'll see greater economic outcomes.
Consultation finding 75% of Lang Park traffic area residents support the doubled cap.
We really maximised the value of that increase over the last couple of years off the back of COVID.
Claire Todd-Hunter, 9 News.
The ousting of the Northern Territory government has reverberated right around the country as elections in Labor states, including here in Queensland and federally, loom in coming months. The stunning result comes as the way thousands of Australians work and are paid is about to change.
Delight a decade in the making. 39-year-old Leah Finocchiaro on top in the top end after a thorough thumping of Labor.
This result represents a turning point in the Territory's future.
And potentially the country and Prime Minister.
I've got enough left over to come after him in the next federal election.
In the Territory, they have big tides, big tidal movements. The tide goes out big, tide comes in big, and I'd say we saw a Territory political tide.
That tide putting the Country Liberal Party in power, the first coalition win from opposition anywhere in Australia since 2018, breaking up the Labor red wall that had stretched across mainland Australia.
This was not just an indictment on Eva Lawler, but also on Prime Minister Anthony Albanese.
An election fought particularly on crime, providing a blueprint for possible blue waves to come. Queensland votes in October, WA in March, with the federal election looming next year.
You're a mug if you say there's never any federal implication.
Some lessons for the Prime Minister. Absolutely.
If we get the government right and we deal with the issues right, the politics will follow.
Around Australia and around the world, it is proving a tough time for incumbents. Federal Labor says its focus hasn't changed.
People are feeling the cost of living and we absolutely understand that.
A suite of workplace rules, including a new definition of casual workers and the right to disconnect outside of work hours, begin tomorrow.
Today is a nervous day for many businesses around the country.
Ahead of a nervous week, new inflation data on Wednesday, a month out from the next meeting of the Reserve Bank. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
The state opposition has today announced its candidate to challenge Health Minister Shannon Fentiman at the upcoming election. Councillor Jacob Herrimeyer is currently in his second term at Logan City Council and was today endorsed by opposition leader David Crisafulli.
I just want Queenslanders to know that if they want change, they need to vote for it.
Health Minister Shannon Fentiman has held the seat of Waterford since 2015. In the last few hours, Israel and Hezbollah have exchanged fire, with fears growing of an all-out war in the Middle East. Hezbollah says its strikes are retaliation for the killing of a top military commander last month.
Airstrikes hit southern Lebanon in what Israel is calling a preemptive move. The IDF claiming Hezbollah was preparing a large-scale attack.
In a self-defense act to remove these threats, the IDF is striking terror targets in Lebanon.
Sirens sounding in northern Israel soon after. Hezbollah says it fired more than 320 rockets and drones, targeting 11 Israeli military sites. This drone crashing near the Golan Heights. Hezbollah confirmed its phase 1 of a response to the killing of its top commander in Beirut last month. Flights to and from Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport temporarily suspended during the barrage. Israel's security cabinet meeting declaring a state of emergency for the next 48 hours.
Israel will not tolerate Hezbollah's attacks on our civilians.
The Israeli military and Hezbollah have been exchanging fire since the Israel-Hamas war began, but this is a significant escalation. US President Joe Biden briefed on the events as fears mount further fighting could tip the region into a wider conflict. Mark Burrows, 9 News.
German police have arrested 2 people, including a 15-year-old boy, over a deadly stabbing rampage at an arts festival. Islamic State claiming responsibility for the attack, which claimed 3 lives and left at least 4 others injured.
The morning after the horror of the night before, the mayor of the city of Solingen saying, "Last night our hearts were torn apart." A massive police operation was launched after a man and woman in their 50s and a man in his 60s were killed and 8 people injured, 4 seriously, at a festival to mark the city's 650th anniversary. Police raiding a hostel for asylum seekers in the town before announcing they'd made arrests. One was a 26-year-old suspected of carrying out the stabbing attack. Local media saying his clothes were covered in blood. As well, a 15-year-old was detained after 2 women overheard him indicating he knew about the rampage before it happened. As to a motive, police say they were investigating terrorism, citing the fact the attacker was slashing his victims' throats with a knife. ISIS claimed the perpetrator was a soldier of the Islamic State who carried it out in revenge for Muslims in Palestine and everywhere. A performer at the festival, DJ Topic, said on Instagram, even in the aftermath of the rampage, police asked him to keep playing to avoid mass panic. Really close friends of mine were there with their small kids. What's happening to this world? Festivals in neighbouring towns have been cancelled this weekend. In London, Brett McLeod, 9 News.
An online fundraising page has been set up in memory of Gold Coast schoolgirl Sophie Wang. The 10-year-old was found dead by her father, Yun Wang, on August 13, with a close-knit community now rallying together to support him. Her mother, 46-year-old Ying Shu, remains in custody, charged with her murder. The fundraiser has so far raised more than $10,000. Flood emergency. More than a dozen missing after a rare rain event. Plus, wild weather leaves hikers stranded. Your first look inside the new Sky High luxury at Queen's Wharf. And at the end of sport, heart health straight to your front door. The life-saving service.
The right to clock off and switch off. New rules for Australian workplaces start now.
This is such a new, important right for workers.
I'd be interested in how they actually implement that in practice.
I think it's beneficial for us, mental health, physical health.
Everything you need to know about your new after-hours rights. 9 News Monday.
11 people are dead and 14 others missing after flooding swept through a city in northeast China. Local media is reporting the torrential rain has caused more than $1 billion of damage. Rescuers are still trying to find those missing. More than 100 people have been rescued after heavy rain swept through the Grand Canyon National Park in Arizona. Waterfalls were turned into muddy torrents by the flash flooding. One hiker is still missing after being swept into a creek during the downpour. We've seen it taking shape from the outside, but tonight a first look inside the new luxury hotel in the $3.2 billion Queen's Wharf precinct. The Star Grand is getting ready to welcome a full house of guests in just 4 days' time.
Checking out the Star Grand as it's almost time to check in.
So we've all been waiting a long time for this. You're going to walk in and see a world-class hotel lobby, and that's just the start.
Because when you go sky high at the 5-star hotel, this is what you get. 4 skyline penthouse suites in the heart of the Queen's Wharf development.
These penthouses will be taking luxury to the next level here in Brisbane.
But luxury doesn't come cheap. The 2-bedroom suites coming with a $5,600 per night price tag. Still, with others starting from $450 a night, all 340 rooms are booked out from Thursday for the opening weekend. Penthouse guests among those securing prime position for river fire with unobstructed river views, whether you're in bed or the bath.
you're not going to know which direction to look at. It's just going to be fireworks galore as well as the fighter jets flying right outside your window.
The Neville Bonner Bridge and casino gaming floor also opening on Thursday, with the hotel's infinity pools and gym to follow next month.
It's going to feel like almost every week we'll be unveiling a new restaurant or venue.
This is one of 4 luxury hotels that'll open in the precinct, with the Dorset and Rosewood hotels set to open in phase 2 as the phased rollout continues.
It's certainly spread far and wide, that anticipation, interstate as well as international.
Another attraction putting Brisbane on the map in the lead up to the Olympics. Kate Lamb, 9 News.
Back in time tonight, we're rewinding the clock to horse and carts, bush rangers and even steam trains. The very special celebration, 100 years in the making. It's very cool. That's coming up. Vandalism crackdown, the blitz to stop graffiti on our trains and save millions of taxpayer dollars. Why NASA is leaving 2 astronauts stranded at the International Space Station until next year. The yacht tragedy turned manslaughter investigation. And Ukrainian soldiers freed in time to celebrate their country's Independence Day. After months of being stuck in space limbo, NASA has made the call to leave 2 stranded astronauts at the International Space Station until February next year. They're Boeing Starliner spacecraft, too dangerous to make the journey home, with no guarantee it could get them back to Earth alive.
And liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V.
It was meant to be an 8-day mission. Now it'll become an 8-month space ordeal.
Butch and Sonny will return with Crew 9 next February.
NASA ruling the troubled Boeing Starliner will return to Earth unmanned because the vessel simply isn't safe enough for the 2 American astronauts to make the journey back home.
It was just too much risk with the crew, and so we decided to pursue the uncrewed test flight.
And this is a test flight. We were expecting to find some things, and so we are finding stuff, and we're correcting it and making changes, making updates with our control team.
Butch and Sonny waiting until February when they can hitch a ride with Boeing's biggest competitor, Elon Musk's SpaceX, who will bring the pair home on the Crew 9 Dragon. Starliner suffered setbacks before it had even blasted off. On the launch pad in June, there were helium leaks. Then, in space, the craft's thruster stopped working. Engineers tried and failed to fix the issue.
There was just too much uncertainty in the prediction of the thrusters.
NASA pointing to past deadly mistakes. The 1986 Challenger and 2003 Columbia Space Shuttle disasters.
We lost 2 space shuttles as a result of there not being a culture in which information could come forward.
While NASA voted unanimously to bring Starliner back unmanned, Boeing wanted to proceed with the astronauts on board for the return, a risk the space agency deemed unacceptable.
Starliner will undock from the International Space Station next month. In the United States, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
Italian authorities are considering potential manslaughter charges as they work to find out what caused a luxury super yacht to sink off the coast of Sicily, killing 7 people, including British tech tycoon Mike Lynch. Speaking for the first time, investigators say they will focus on the extent people were warned about safety procedures. Ukraine has marked its 33rd Independence Day as its war against Russia's invasion continues. Russia and Ukraine also exchanging more than 100 prisoners of war as President Volodymyr Zelensky reiterated the country's resolve to regain its territorial integrity. Queensland Rail has launched a crackdown on graffiti vandals after our train suffered over $1 million worth of damage in a year. Police say the attacks are not only costly, but incredibly dangerous and potentially deadly.
Taking to the side of a train with a spray can in full daylight and full view of passengers in Kippa Ring, this is just one of more than 500 brazen vandalism attacks on our trains over the last year.
Cost us over $1 million last year to clean our trains alone.
81 charges laid against 33 people arrested, most in their 20s, 30s and even 40s.
The more ingrained offenders are a little bit older, should know better, the dangers are so.
should really, think about their life choices.
Police blaming an addictive graffiti culture.
They find it quite exciting and exhilarating, but it is dangerous. This deliberate risk-taking behaviour has got to stop.
It's triggered a joint blitz between Queensland Rail and specialised police investigators who use covert methodology to catch the offenders and put them before the courts.
The main thing is seeking the restitution for the damage caused. That can get into tens of thousands of dollars.
Impacted trains are brought here to Queensland Rail's dedicated graffiti removal facility. 3 to 5 trains a week undergoing cleaning using a special chemical and hours of elbow grease.
And they will literally scrub all the graffiti off the side of the train. It's very dependent on how thickly the paint's been applied or how long it's been sitting on the side of the train. But look, a general removal can take anywhere from 2 to 5 hours.
Claire Todd-Hunter, 9 News.
Major scam threats. The new warning for Queenslanders, how to protect yourself. The regional towns rocked by 2 earthquakes in as many days. Back in time, the special celebration 100 years in the making. And the countdown officially on as the Paralympic flame is lit. People in the Upper Hunter Valley in New South Wales are still feeling rattled after 2 earthquakes in as many days, with a series of aftershocks still plaguing the region. CCTV emerging of yesterday's 4.5 magnitude quake, including one local mayor being interrupted at the footy.
Oh, that is another earthquake. You're joking. I've just said that. No, someone's shaking the back, aren't we?
Geoscience Australia says while future events are likely to be smaller, it's impossible to rule out a large earthquake. Australia's banks are finally getting on top of scammers, with customer losses dropping significantly this year. But security bosses warn constant vigilance is still needed to avoid becoming a victim.
In the war against scammers, battles are finally being won. Almost every major bank is now showing off improvements.
We, on average, stopping about $12 to $14 million of scam attempts every month.
Scammers are still targeting Australians in huge numbers, but losses are tumbling. At ANZ and Commonwealth Bank, scam losses halved in the last year. At Westpac, they're down 31% and 24% at NAB. Shaq Johnson runs ANZ's security operations, spending his time, as he puts it, throwing sand in the gears of scammers.
We consume all of this data, we process the data, we make sense of it. If we need to slow things down, we do that. If we make to establish contact with the customer, we pick up the phone to try to understand what's going on.
All of the banks say they've spent hundreds of millions fighting scammers, much of it working to slow down payments and stop repeat losses.
Customers sometimes will fall victim to a scam once, but they also then fall victim to a scam a second time. We do see that quite often.
Shantara Lowe is on the front line. Just this week, she stopped a payment going to a scammer, even though the customer was convinced it was for a great investment.
We actually cancelled the payment and prevented him from losing about $50,000.
3 types of scams remain the big threat for Australians. First, impersonation scams, where someone pretends they're from the bank, your telco or the tax office. They often say they're chasing a bill. Second, investment scams, usually touting huge returns, and usually it's in crypto. And third, remote access scams, where a scammer offers urgent technical support, asking to remotely log into your computer only to steal money and data. And while losses are falling now, security bosses say there can be no rest.
We are seeing the scammers diversify their attacks. They are definitely trying different techniques. We have evidence to suggest that they are using AI technology.
Desperation because scamming Australians, we're told, is getting harder. Chris Kohler, 9 News.
The Paralympic flame has been lit in a village northwest of London 2 weeks after the Paris Olympic flame was extinguished. Stoke Mandeville is considered the birthplace of the Games after a small competition was held there in 1948 for a group of wheelchair athletes who had sustained spinal injuries during World War II. Ahead in sport, the race for the NRL's top 8 is alive and well ahead of next weekend's Battle of Brisbane. Plus, the Lions have some tidying up to do as they lock in the Gabba for finals week 1. And at the end of sport, the life-saving service bringing heart health to front doors, no matter where you live.
And a beautiful weekend of weather, some nice warm temperatures. They are set to soar for the last weekend of winter. We're looking at mid-30s. Wait to see what Brisbane will reach on the last day of winter.
The right to clock off and switch off. New rules for Australian workplaces start now.
This is such a new, important right for workers.
I'd be interested in how they actually implement that in practice.
I think it's beneficial for us, mental health, physical health.
Everything you need to know about your new after-hours rights. 9 News Monday.
The Dolphins' finals hopes have been dealt a massive blow after being thumped by the Storm, who've wrapped up the minor premiership. The Dragons doing Brisbane teams a favour, keeping the race for 8th spot alive after they were smashed by the Sharks.
Wayne Bennett could only watch as his side was thrashed 48-6 by the Storm. The Supercoach far from impressed as his side slid to 10th on the ladder.
Yeah, that's our worst performance of the season. I've probably got lots of thoughts, but I don't really feel like sharing them.
Next week's Battle of Brisbane, a must-win for both sides. The Finns without Jesse Bromwich and Cody Nikorima against the Broncos, both leaving early with concussions.
Oh, I'm sure we'll regroup. So we're going to lose a couple of players for next week as well, so that only adds to the injuries. We'll turn up in Brisbane. We'll be doing our best.
The win wrapping up the Storm's 5th minor premiership in the last 9 seasons.
To be the minor premier, you've got to be the best, basically more wins than anybody else. So you be the best team for the whole year for 27 weeks.
Craig Bellamy revealing he'll be resting players for their trips to Townsville and Brisbane, taking on the Broncos to close out the season.
Yeah, sometimes I don't think that's a real good look for the competition, but we've got to do what we think's right for us.
The Dragons clinging on to 8th place, but the Sharks are circling their own top 4 berth.
They've missed him. He scores early for Cronulla.
Ben Hunt with a perfect pass, only it was straight to referee Ashley Klein.
Ashley should have taken the pass and run away and scored himself.
It wouldn't have made a difference. The Sharks scintillating in a 38-10 win. Sam Stonestreet crossing for a double as Cronulla jumped to 3rd. The Dragons staying 1 win clear of the Broncos and Dolphins. Angus Crichton in feast mode against the Titans. The Roosters' back rower scoring a hat-trick in his side's 48-22 win on the Gold Coast.
Yes, count them off.
Fresh of a 4-week suspension, Jared Waerea-Hargreaves once again in hot water. Sin bin for a high shot on former teammate Sam Verrills. Jacob Funk, 9 News.
The Titans' NRLW side is back in winning form, outclassing a roasting Roosters outfit in the heat to take the game 26-6. The match headlined by 3 sin binnings. Shaylee Bent and Jamie Fressard sent packing for this scrap.
Oh, look out.
To see the girls turn it around today to play like we know they can play, and it was just a great team effort across the board.
Down 14-6 at half-time, the Broncos have gone on to embarrass the Tigers, putting on 38 unanswered points after the break. The fight back sparked by a Julia Robinson 90-metre intercept try. The Lions will be back at the Gabba for the first week of finals after taking care of business against Essendon at home. The win wasn't without its nervous moments, wayward goal kicking once again rearing its ugly head.
The Lions finals bound their rollercoaster home and away season, finishing with an 87-67 win over Essendon. But Chris Fagan was far from happy.
The game shouldn't even be as close as it was, and this is what we've done for the last 3 weeks.
As they've done so often this year, the Lions strong out the blocks. Charlie Cameron at his blistering best with 3 first-half goals.
On the left, bends it goalward, magnificent.
But there'd be some nervous moments late. A 47-point lead reduced to just 19. The Lions failing to kick a major in the final term despite being gifted opportunities.
We did a bit of work on that this week. Obviously not with any great success, but we'll stick at it, and I'm just hopeful that we've got it out of our system and that we won't see it again for the rest of the year.
Brisbane's accuracy woes continuing. 21 behinds with several missing everything. This shank from Josh Dunkley, the piste de resistance.
I know I'm having a bit of fun with it now, but I'm a bit disappointed about what's happened over the last 3 weeks because it has cost us the opportunity to finish top 4.
The Joe Danaher experience in full effect in his 200th, missing a set shot from 35 metres, only to make up for it just a minute later.
60 out, low, flat, straight.
History not on the Lions' side as they look to win it from outside the top 4, but with the competition so even, this could be the year they buck the trend.
It feels that way, doesn't it? We're not coming into this final series thinking we're no chance. We believe in ourselves.
And Brisbane will face either Fremantle or Carlton in 2 weeks' time.
Tottenham has kick-started its Premier League season. Ange Postecoglou's men thrashing Everton 4-0. The Aussie slammed his side for not taking their chances in their opening match draw. This morning they had no such troubles. Champions Manchester City were even more clinical, up 4-0 against Ipswich Town inside 16 minutes. On their way to a 4-1 win, Arsenal defeated Aston Villa 2-0. Oscar Piastri has another podium finish in his sights, the Aussie qualifying third fastest for the Dutch Grand Prix. McLaren teammate Lando Norris claiming his third pole of the season, with world champion Max Verstappen in second. The track is proving challenging, with Williams' Logan Sargent escaping a horror smash in practice, taking an overly aggressive approach to turn 3. That is a doozy. And golf can be a cruel game. Just one day after shooting the course record at Castle Pines, Adam Scott has come right back to the field thanks to a round of 74. Sending his tee shot out of bounds on the first, the Australian made the turn in 40, but rallied with a strong back nine, keeping him in title contention, one shot behind leader Keegan Bradley. Golf and frustration, Mia, they seem to go hand in hand even when you are a champion.
I don't think I could do it. I don't have the patience for golf.
I certainly never will.
Thanks, Bronte. Well, bringing radiology to regional Australians and ensuring those keeping rural communities alive have someone watching over them too. That's the goal of Heart of Australia, a travelling medical service that's just received a massive cash injection on a milestone birthday to expand its reach right across the country.
A CT machine space for patient consults, all the bells and whistles of a hospital radiology ward, but it's on wheels. Welcome to Heart of Australia's Heart 5 Mobile Medical Clinic.
The world's first battery-operated CT scanner in a truck. So you could literally park this truck anywhere, out in a cane field, out in the desert.
Bringing city-grade hospital care to country folk, farmers and First Nations communities. It's been Dr Rolf Gomes' mission for the last 10 years. The service treating 18,000 people so far, saving around 800 lives, including 73-year-old Garry Briggs. He's been a patient since the start, trading cardiology appointments hundreds of kilometres from home for a checkup that's trucked in.
He convinced me that I should go to Brisbane, get a defibrillator put on my chest, and because he said that one day, because of my travelling all the time, one day I would die out there in the bush.
Heart of Australia celebrating its 10th birthday this month, receiving a big gift from the federal government, $45 million to put more of these on rural roads and hire crews to carry out vital health checks.
Within 2 years, there'll be a truck in every state and territory across the country.
It'll also help roll out the National Lung Cancer Screening Program in the outback.
Bush people are usually fairly tough and they think, oh, I'll get over this tomorrow.
Tough but not invincible. This growing service working to make sure distance doesn't stand in the way of early detection. Lily Greer, 9 News.
In just 3 minutes, rewinding the clock 100 years. The special celebration marking the end of an era. Tonight we take you back to horse and carts, bush rangers and steam trains. That's moments away. But first, Garry Youngberry is back with a check on the weather. And Gaz, good evening again to you. What's causing this crazy warm weather? Not that we're complaining though.
Well, Mia, there's been this heat that's been building across Central Australia. Over the past week, it's been drawn right across our state. Due to these northwesterly winds, they'll be here all week. The temps will gradually climb, reaching their peak on the last day of winter and up around 10 degrees above average. We'll check it in your forecast up next.
An 18th century style horse-drawn carriage has journeyed through outback Queensland, retracing the final steps of Australia's iconic bush postal service. The mail run commemorating 100 years since Cobb & Co made its last voyage, and hundreds went along for the ride.
500 kilometres west of Brisbane, a journey back through time. A horse-drawn carriage ride to the 18th century, when this was the only form of transport. A festival celebrating Cobb & Co, recreating the company's final mail run in Queensland in 1924.
If you could go back 100 years ago, we wouldn't be dressed like this. Mightn't have any boots on, because times were tough.
The coach service was founded in Victoria in 1854 and quickly became the lifeline of the bush, connecting services and people in the outback.
Everybody back in the day, farmers, every business required horses or draft animals to do it.
This 76-kilometre journey between Surat and Gildea broken up into 7 legs. A 2-day trip that would only take an hour by car, and it's not exactly a smooth ride.
You might have noticed by now there's no suspension.
I know that. But it's not all a laughing matter, with bushrangers lurking around the bend.
Put them in the air.
These miniature troublemakers doing their best to raise money for the Surat Pony Club.
Hopefully when we hold the coach up, some people have got some coins in their pockets and might make a small donation to our club.
The coach accompanied by other carts towed by camels and bullocks, as well as one little pony who apparently needed the exercise.
Yeah, she's been in a good paddock. She's been running with the camels and the ponies at home, so she wears a bit of a tummy.
When the convoy finally rolled into its destination, every man and his dog had a front row seat.
Done such a marvellous job, the organiser. I reckon it's great.
A fun way to relive history and commemorate the end of the coach road. Cam Inglis, 9 News.
How good are the bushrangers? Well, time now for your full weather forecast. And Gaz, how hot are we talking this week?
Oh, Mia, 30 degrees plus, particularly for the inner suburbs. The first couple of days this week, sort of high 20s for the coast, but they'll gradually rise. And by the end of the week, the last day of winter, we're looking at about 34 degrees in Brisbane, 36 for Ipswich. Now, not quite a record. Brisbane's highest August temperature was back in 2009, and that was 35.4. But close to it as we wrap up for a hot week of winter. Let's have a look at temperatures today over southeast Queensland, and both the minimum and maximums were above average today, but it was all about the highs with 6 to 7 degrees above average, 31 for Ipswich and Beaudesert, 30 for Greenbank and Gatton, 29 Archerfield and Caboolture, 27 Brisbane, 28 for the Goldie, 26 for Redcliffe and the Sunshine Coast. To the weather map for Monday, a cold front producing showers and storms across New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania, gusty winds and showers for the southwest of WA and extending into South Oz. For the capitals, a shower for Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, Canberra and Hobart, sunny in Sydney, Alice Springs and Darwin. Returning to Queensland, mostly sunny and warm for Cairns, Townsville and Mackay. Early fog, but then a sunny one for Rocky and Gladstone. Sunny and warm around the Wide Bay and Burnett with 30 degrees forecast for Gympie. Sunny and very warm inland. We're looking at mid-30s for the north and central west. Southeast Queensland for Monday, a mostly sunny day. There could be a little bit of fog to the north with a slight chance of a shower in the south. Look, a possible thunderstorm. West-northwesterly winds, but temperatures tomorrow, high 20s, close to 30 degrees for the coast and bayside, up to about 33 in Ipswich. Moreton Bay, northerlies, 15 to 20 knots. That's why we're seeing this warm air pushing across southeast Queensland. Brisbane, partly cloudy, strengthening northwest to northeasterlies. Look, there is a very slight chance of a shower and thunderstorm and a high of 31 degrees. Outlook, the next 7 days, partly cloudy, 28 Tuesday, sunny and 31 Wednesday, 32 Thursday and Friday, 34 for Saturday. Ipswich, hot daytime temperatures for the last week of winter. Wednesday and Thursday 33, Friday 34, Saturday 36 degrees. For the Goldie, mostly sunny for that last week of August. Daytime temperatures will be close to 30 degrees most days this week, reaching up to a top of 32 on Saturday. The water temperature, by the way, at the moment is around 20 degrees. Not bad in. Sunshine Coast, sunny Tuesday and 26, Wednesday 29, Thursday 30, Friday 29, Saturday 31. And we can blame these north to northwesterly winds for the heat to wrap up this last week of winter. Actually, it's quite warm for spring, Mia. We don't see too often, not this many days in the 30s for winter.
Yeah, absolutely not. Bring on the tan, though, I say, Gaz. Thank you. Well, before we go, here's Adam Hegarty with a look at what's coming up on tonight's 60 Minutes.
Thanks, Mia. Tonight,
this is romance scam times a million.
exposing the scammers.
They are brainwashing techniques.
Latest devious tricks.
You can't believe your eyes. It's like a live deepfake.
Yep. How AI is earning them billions.
We haven't seen anything like this in the world before.
As more victims get stung.
I just knew in that moment I'd been done.
From these secret scam factories.
Pretty heinous and calculated.
Absolutely. I don't know what they're doing.
That's tonight after the block. Back to you, Mia.
And that is Star News Queensland for your Sunday. Thanks so much for your company this weekend. I'm Mia Glover. Good night.